Welcome to Smut and Sensibility,
a podcast for romance readers and romance writers.
By romance readers and writers.
We are Amber,
Allie,
and Marie,
a group of learned ladies who love talking about the romance genre.
In this podcast, we will talk about our favorite books, writing craft, and how we make room for a creative life in real time.
So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Smut and Sensibility. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get into our craft talk for Romancing the Beat Part 2, we are going to chat about some books. So Amber, take it away for Book Nook.
Okay, so part of how I knew I needed to call in the cavalry was because I was hardly reading or listening to audiobooks, which is like, I am a voracious reader and I do it all the time. But when I am so overwhelmed and you're just functioning and sleeping and functioning, so that's how I knew. Yeah. And so I finally got back in and I didn't really have the capacity to deep dive. And on my For You was a brand new release from Tessa Bailey. I very much enjoy her. It was book 4 in the Big Shot series. It was Picture Perfect. And I listened to it on audio, and it also had some of my favorite narrators, Callie Dalton and Teddy Hamilton. So I just knew combo. It was going to be the palate cleanser I needed to get me back in, and I didn't have to really search for a book. Robbie's our main character. He's living his dream in the NHL. So again, a little hockey here. He's known as a playboy. And when he meets the female main character, Skylar, at a pickup baseball game with some other MLB players, he's kind of smitten, but kind of a little douchey. She overhears him say some stuff and she sees through his persona. So after a bet, they go on a coffee date and he agrees to go home with her to compete in her family games because she lost a partner to compete with, and she kind of want to make her brother's best friend jealous to see her romantically. So we have dating and proximity. I mean, just like chef's kiss, you know what to expect. But like you said, Marie, sometimes you just do the original old school tropes, but you do them well. They feel so good and they work so well.
It's classic for a reason.
It is for a reason.
They do.
I don't want to give too many spoilers, but that's just the setup. So if that sounds like your jam, I highly recommend, and the audiobook was so good. And I like this. It did what it needed to do. It got me out of my reading slump because life is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is Robbie is so down and hard for our girl really early. And I just love that. And he's got golden retriever energy. A little funny thing, he's hungry and he eats all the time, which a professional athlete would be, but it's kind of like a funny side thing. So his appetite is almost like a side character, which was it was really funny.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah,
I've read the other 3. I haven't picked up Picture Perfect yet, but I've read the other 3 in the series. Yeah.
And then she's a fastball pitcher for her collegiate team, which is fun. So she's also an athlete and competes and has that drive. And I loved that too. So
that's very cool.
I would recommend. So it was great. Who's next? Tell me your book nooks. I need more.
I'll go next. It's been a little bit now. I've had a little bit of a reading slump, if I'm going to be honest. One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. I love all of her books.
Same.
And I would give this one a 10 out of 10. I thought that the banter was really good. There was a lot of high romantic tension. It's really fun, even though it's the fall right now. If you're feeling like you're not ready to let go of summer yet, I would recommend There's a Summer Bucket List. And honestly, the 2 characters, the thing that I really liked, they both admired each other's self-perceived weaknesses, but they're really their strengths. And so
interesting.
I thought that was really nice. If you haven't read her first novel, which is kind of the sister novel to One Golden Summer, it's Every Summer After. And that was her debut. And I think that allows you to get the most payoff out of this book, but you absolutely don't have to read it. They're standalones.
I would agree.
Yeah. But I remember when I read Every Summer After her debut, and I always wanted Charlie, who's now the main character in One Golden Summer, who's the brother of Sam, the hero in Every Summer After, to get his HEA. And I would say that these sister books are probably my favorite of hers, just because you can just really feel the love that she writes about Barry's Bay, which is where she grew up. And I also was thinking more about this book and why I thought this one was very satisfying, because it's a contemporary take on The Rake and the Wallflower, which is such a classic, wonderful trope that we typically see in a lot of historical romance. Mm-hmm. And I think it works really well because through the love, attention and insistence of the hero, the heroine becomes more self-confident and independent and stands up for herself. And so the self-discovery arc blends really well with the romance arc. And that is not always an easy thing to do. And as far as like Charlie, who's our rake archetype here, he learns that with love and care of the heroine, he's more than just his like charm and sex appeal. And like he is proving to himself that like he can be a worthy partner and is worthy of love despite his past. So I really loved it. I would recommend.
Oh, that sounds so charming. I want to check that out.
That's so good. I was late to the Carly game. I devoured it
man.
all this summer. I discovered one
So
on the way
good.
driving up north, and it was like boom, boom, boom. I just like couldn't get enough.
She's a summer
Um,
queen. She belongs in the
yes,
summer.
yes. Art Marie,
It
give
sounds very golden and very just, yeah,
delicious.
sounds very
And
lovely and
I love her
summery.
covers too. Like she has a
That's very
Canadian
pretty.
artist. Has a Canadian artist, I believe, that does all of her covers. And I think
It
they're
shows
beautiful
they're
because
cohesive.
they're cohesive and it's sort of an alternative take on the cartoon cover. So like
Hmm.
it's not a photo, but it's also not an illustration. It's a
Hmm.
painting. So I think that it's very
Yeah,
cool.
I like that style a lot. Well, I actually read two books. Both of them were by Olivia Atwater. The first one's called 10,000 Stitches, and the second one's called Half a Soul. And I picked this up kind of as I was sort of in the middle of drafting my fantasy idea, and hers are very different. But originally, I was looking for like everyday fantasy, and hers are more like Regency Victorian, but the Fae world is parallel to ours. And I liked both of them. I liked Half a Soul a little bit better, which was interesting, but they're both just really sweet and charming. And I think the thing that was interesting to me about Half a Soul was that the heroine literally has her soul stolen, like it exists separate from her. And so she doesn't
Oh.
feel strong emotions. She just sort of is numb. And that makes her very intriguing as a point of view character. I think it was done really effectively. She goes into like town for the season to sort of support her. I think it's her cousin. It has been a hot minute since I finished it, but she's aware enough to know that she's an observer to this world and she doesn't have the feelings to be hurt by that, but she knows she's different from other people, which I think was a very intriguing thing to read. And I liked that characterization very much. And her love interest is essentially a shitty wizard. And I love a shitty wizard. I mean, he's
Oh
not bad at wizarding,
my
he's
god, I
kind
love
of just a
it.
shithead.
Yeah, I love it.
Very grumpy. Just a lovely romp through kind of self acceptance and what it means to be fully human and why we have the feelings we have. But it just very wonderfully balanced. And 10,000 Stitches has a similar, it's set in the same world. And essentially, the heroine is very good at embroidery. And so she makes this bargain with this Fey Lord to embroider his coat for him. And that one goes in a direction that I was very surprised by because initially she makes this bargain with him to kind of like put on airs. Like she's this lower class work servant girl and she wants to impress the gentleman of the house. And you think it's going to be like, oh, okay, like he's going to notice her and wow, she's so like you think it's going to be like kind of a Cinderella thing. And instead, the pairing is her and the Fae Lord, which once that like, and I went into this completely blind, so I'm kind of reading it and I'm like, wow, he's kind of Sir not appearing in this book. She's kind of like, man, if I could just be different, if I could just be someone that I'm not, then I would get this attention. And then having someone who's just like, well, but I like you the way you are. Like, I thought both of them were very interesting, and I love that idea of sort of a historical real world running parallel to like you could go out your back garden and you could go through the gate and you could be in the Fey realm and
So
like,
fun.
That's
Like
yeah,
very cool.
whimsical, secret garden,
yeah,
I love
fantasy.
that.
I love it. I'm glad
yeah,
you enjoyed it. And I
yeah.
feel like I
Those were
need to
great. I really enjoyed them.
add it to my list of
Yeah, they're very cute.
TBRs.
Always love talking about books. Could talk about books forever. But now it's time to get into the meat of the episode, the main event, Craft Corner. And we're going to be continuing our discussion on Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes, who is essentially the author of the Romance Bible for both genre romance and stories that have significant romantic subplots. So, in our first episode, we discussed the first 2 acts of Gwen's 4-act structure. So we covered the setup, and then we covered falling in love. And now it's about to get messy because we're going to be going over acts 3 and 4 in the remainder of this episode. So let's get started.
But what happens after we fall?
After we fall, we are going to start to retreat because we're feeling like things are too good to be true. And maybe they are. So retreating from love is going to be our next beat. And this is where we're going to attack all of those soft spots, the gooey center, and we're going to basically push our characters essentially off of a cliff. And we're going to try to force them to confront the reasons that they don't want to fall in love. I like to think of this act as kind of the main act because you've built up a lot of tension. You've had usually a highly intense emotional beat, like an emotional scene. That may include sex, that may include the illusion of sex, that may just be, a very highly intimate, like emotional connection. Because I would argue like that's in a traditional romance outside of erotica, I would say that sex is something that is put in a book to build emotional intimacy and tension. And so you've built up this tension. You've basically said, it's okay. Like, you have no reason to be afraid. This has been really emotionally satisfying. You're happy. You're just like, wow, I'm doing so great. And then you're going to basically make it all come crashing down and cause your character a lot of strife and pain. And so I think Gwen makes a really good point about this act. And she kind of describes things in this act as like 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward, especially when we're sort of laying the groundwork for the doubt in this chapter, because that's really, I think that's what this act is you're basically increasing the doubt and you're turning up the volume on that so that it's so loud that they can't see a way around their self-doubt or their doubt about love. So the first beat in this act is the inkling of doubt. So this is the sprinkle. This is the 2 steps back, 1 step forward. And we're just kind of, again, reminding them of their wound, their flaw, kind of what you said in the no way beat. And Gwen does suggest starting kind of slow with these first couple of doubt acts and amping up the devastation as you proceed. You want to plant the seed of doubt here. You want this seed of doubt to specifically align with their no way beat. All right. So inkling of doubt, we have planted the seeds of doubt, and specifically we should be attacking their no way beat that they're clinging to with their fingernails. And that moves us to the second beat in Act 3, which is deepening of doubt. And again, it's a 2 steps back, 1 step forward. And I think Gwen does a good illustration of this in that she states intimacy is growing, but so is their doubt. So you're doing 2 things at the same time. And I think that's what makes the breakup later more effective, right? Because you've spent Act 2 having them fall in love, and you're continuing on this trajectory. And so you're building this intimacy, but you're also making the voices in their head louder. Our characters are not admitting that there's anything wrong yet, but they're distancing themselves from the other person, or they're retreating a little bit. They're thinking they're starting to display those actions, but they may not have consciously, explicitly made that choice, which then leads us to the third beat, which is the retreat beat. Say that 5 times fast, please, because it's a challenge. Retreat beat. In this one, you're going to actually clearly state what they fear, which is love for whatever reason, and that they are going to redouble their efforts to protect their heart. So we've now crossed over into being very explicit about pulling away and starting this road to the self-fulfilling prophecy. I do think that when I get annoyed about a miscommunication trope, which is often, I will say, but I think that a lot of times a miscommunication trope is used here in this kind of situation. And when I say miscommunication, and I mean it derogatory, I mean that they could have had a conversation and then literally the problem wouldn't have occurred. But So I would challenge people to not use a miscommunication trope for the retreat beat, because I think it's an easy one that you could potentially do and you also want to make sure that your characters are telling the reader and themselves, whether that's internal monologue or actual dialogue, what they're afraid of and what they're going to do to keep themselves safe.
That brings us to shields up. We are turtling back in our shell. Dam is shutting. We're going to prove these little idiots that they're right about their silly fear about love. And you're going to make your characters just like crow from the rooftops. I told you so. Going off 10 things I hate about you, a good example is right after, where Kat overhears that the only reason Patrick is on a date with her is because he was paid to do so. And she's been scorned by love before. And so she's had no emotional intimacy. She asked him earlier in the movie, what's in it for you? Right. So like that's her shield. Everything is contractual. She wants nothing to do with it. You wouldn't want to hang out with me. Like, I'm not going to fall for that old trick again. The game is up. She's proven right. I told you so. That shield is completely up. And then the final beat, our sad breakup beat. The characters are challenged and they sadly choose the fear. They haven't completed that full arc of personal development yet, where they're going to decide that the vulnerability and the risk is worth it. Right now, we're choosing the fear and the safety and those comforting coping mechanisms. Gwen says to link it back to the moment with the external plot and then the romance plot to do this, to make this emotionally charged moment. A good breakup scene example that I'm all about like 90s, early 2000s rom-coms, apparently. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
The pinnacle of the genre, so it
so
makes sense.
good. So I feel like most people know this, but so she's writing an ad-hoc piece, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, doing the pitfalls of what they view women do that chase men away, and then she's going to write an expose. And then Ben, the other character, it's a bet, right? Ellie Marie, right? It's a bet that he can't get that
Yeah.
woman to fall in love with him. Like they pick
Yep.
out the woman. And anyway, so at this point, they're at this big gala, and then Andy realizes Ben has the bet going on about her. And then Ben finds out that Andy is writing this tell-all piece. And he's being used as the example. This comes to a head at this party, and Andy goes up on stage and sings karaoke, You're So Vain, and then Ben joins in, and it's this big awful scene breakup. She drops the mic and she goes off, and they're clearly breaking up. They're done. It's over, and we're so sad. Everything has crumbled. And that brings us to Act 4. We got to fight for the love, though, Marie. We got to fight for it.
We gotta fight for it. Well, I've heard Act 2 described as playing house, which I really like.
Comparison.
When I'm drafting, I look at Act 2 is it's fun, but it's not honest. It's playing house. They're sort of taking their fears and insecurities and they're saying like, okay, yeah, whatever, but I'm gonna put that over here because I'm just having fun. Like I'm playing around, I'm playing pretend. I don't have to ever reconcile those two things. It's not really that important. And if Act 2 is playing house, it's fun, but it's not honest. And Act 3 is paying the mortgage, where you start getting the serious things where you start go, wait a minute, if we actually are going to have a life together, like we're going to have to decide, like you want to live in the city and I want to live in the country. It's not going to work. This could never work. And I think if the whole theme of a romance is choosing love over fear, love and fear are going to look very different for every character. And by the time you get to this, if you haven't already established what does that look like for them? What does it look like for them to choose love over fear? What is love? I mean, is love safety? Is it trust? Is it, someone did you wrong and they're showing up in a way for you that this past person didn't, or they're telling you the truth about something, or they're helping you grow as a person, whatever that thing is. If you haven't solidified all of that and really defined that in the first 3 acts, then the fighting for love section, you can walk through the gestures, but the real satisfying ones are the ones where those gestures have a lot of meaning, which like I would say like then that makes Act 4 the frantic run to IKEA before it closes because your beloved needs the stuffed shark. I mean, who doesn't? I have two. Yeah, I have a big one and I have a baby one. Anyway, Act 4 is where the rubber meets the road of the plot. 4 very important things have to happen in Act 4. Your characters have to hit rock fucking bottom. They have completely given up. Fear has temporarily won. It has knocked them all the way down. But just like Chumbawamba, they get back up again.
I get knocked
They
down.
have to.
Dang it, Allie, you made me sing.
We were going to not sing this time.
Mission accomplished.
Evil Marie as she slowly
You
takes a
think this
sip.
doesn't have vodka in it. You never know. Um, your characters have to hit rock bottom and they have to die. And that's one of the things that when you talk about like, why can't they have the thing they want? Why can't they just get together? Why in Ever After can Danielle and the prince just be like, I really dig your vibe. Let's fucking do this. Because there's all these external reasons. And that's my 90s comfort movie. But there's all these internal reasons of his role, his view of himself, his obligations, what he's been raised to do, and what he's been raised to value in terms of class and status, and then how she's been treated and her sense of how she wants to be independent and, you know, what her personality is. Your characters have to die metaphorically. They have to die to what they thought they wanted, and they have recognized that even if they got what they wanted, maybe in Act 3, it didn't satisfy. It wasn't good enough. There is no way to reconcile that. And they have to start making decisive actions and choices that are going to reorient them towards what is actually going to satisfy, which is this love. They are actively choosing love over fear, and that means taking action. I wouldn't necessarily split up Act 4 like 25, 25, 20. Like I would tend to make Act 4 like a little shorter, because by the time they get to this moment, the realization tends to be pretty quick. Like if you have a dark night of the soul, it does not have to take a full night. You could have that in an instant and be like,
Right.
oh, this thing I thought I wanted doesn't make me happy, and I'm going to do something else now. Um, and as they pass through this, the characters are going to showcase eventually what it's going to look like to move from being this person with the hole in their heart, person who is choosing fear over love in the beginning, to who they are now as someone who is wholehearted, choosing love over fear. And that means they're integrated, they're self aware, they know who they are, and they know what they want, and they're taking action to get it. So in Romancing the Beat, these beats are called The Dark Night, Wake Up, Grand Gesture, and What Wholehearted Looks Like, and the epilogue, but we'll get there. And just to kind of speed run through there is a satisfaction in like, in a movie like Ever After, when you get that kind of extended payoff where the people that have shamed and done her wrong kind of get this moment of shame and vindication, that's really satisfying. But that's really like, that's B plot relative to the romance. I mean, I love vengeance as much as the next bitch, but relative to the romance, in The Dark Knight, the characters realize that they have made a fundamental mistake. If in Act 3, they realize that getting what they thought they wanted doesn't satisfy them, then now they're aware of the difference between that want that they had and the actual soul desire. This uncomfortable understanding turns into an actual threat, and ideally, with a ticking clock, they don't just have a revelation and sort of sit on it for 20 years, but they have a revelation and there's something going on that's like, we gotta go. Like, IKEA's gonna close. They've run out of meatballs. We gotta go. So there's an urgency and there's a sense of, I have made this realization and nothing will keep me from it. You know, when we move from the dark night to the wake up and they make that revelation, we get those very classic, the running in the airport scenes, like at the end of
Yes,
what is it,
yes.
Love Actually? Is that what I'm trying to think of here?
And even Sleepless
Um,
in Seattle too, like,
True.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So the payoff here, this threat that now that they've made it, now that they've made this understanding and they've made this choice, we almost have a sense as a reader that like it could be too late. Like you have to really push them. It shouldn't be a leisurely walk. I think the urgency is really important to me and having that spark. And then you get to the grand gesture, and I am a firm believer that a grand gesture does not have to be grand to be a grand gesture. Like I think, like I said about Ever After, like it is a huge grand gesture that he acknowledges her and chooses her in front of everybody, and like it is very grand. But I think there's other moments in the plot that are kind of grander because they're more personal and they're more intimate and they're more about recognizing how wrong he was, how incorrect he was, and how capable she is. And the rest is kind of the icing on the cake. So your grand gesture, to me, it's less about the grandness and more about the intimacy and the making amends and the understanding that these idiots that we've been following the whole time in our book really do love and need each other, and they're choosing each other. They're prioritizing each other. They're going in the same direction now. Whereas in the beginning, the things they wanted, they can't get it. And that's going to include risk, because love is opening yourself up to vulnerability and risk. There could be a feeling in a story like this where it might be rejected. You might get all the way to the end and have someone say, I want you and I want to be with you. And there's that little tiny feeling of like, could it be too late? But of course, only a little tiny bit, because it's a romance and it's happy. And we love anguish, but we love a satisfying payoff. The anguish just makes it more satisfying. And I think this is more than just a payoff of plot beats. I think that's the thing that's most important to me when I look at beats is I'm looking at these as interconnectedness, and I'm looking at Act 4 as sort of the inversion of Act 1. If in the beginning everything was inauthentic, now it's authentic. If the beginning it was very guarded and resistant, now it's very vulnerable. And the characters are rewarded for their vulnerability, and we see that they're so much better together. And that's another thing that I think, as a very tiny tangent about endings and grand gestures, is sometimes there tends to be the critique in romance that a woman just gives up on her career, because we're kind of in this trend, or there was a trend for a while, of the very, very plucky heroines. Even into historicals, they're very, very plucky, and they've got these grand aspirations and these big, big dreams, and then at the end they're like, but love, and they just kind of give it all up for a guy. And that can work really, really well. It just depends on why they wanted what they thought they wanted to begin with. But I personally would like to see more heroes giving up their careers. It's equality.gif. It's the Ariana Grande one. It's
Perfect.
equality. Yeah, so the best kind of wholehearted moments at the end for me are the ones that mirror the opening image. We can see the growth that's happened. We look back, it's very satisfying. We've gone through this journey, we've watched them grow. If a character starts being selfish, they end selfless. If a character starts afraid to speak up for themselves, then by the end, they are confident and can speak their truth when it really, really matters. I think with all of this too, romance is not a surprising genre in that we know where they're going. It's like you're watching two people get into the same swan boat on the Tunnel of Love ride, and you're like, I wonder if someone's going to get a hand job in there. Like, yeah, probably. It's the Tunnel of Love. You're on a swan boat. Probably. What else is it for? Like, philosophical debate?
Going like, oh, they're both gonna come out of the tunnel. No, that's
I mean,
They
what was
are.
I?
They're
What
gonna
was
come in the
I
tunnel.
even
they have
thinking that you?
cameras in there.
They do.
And there's a
Yeah.
rom-com set up.
There you
Word to the
go.
Caught
wise.
somebody on the swan boat love tunnel camera.
Oh,
We
I
could
love
cut
it.
that.
Marie, you
But
always paint such a visual, and I
it's
will not cut
appreciate that.
it
I want to take you on
because
a journey on a
you
swan boat through my mind.
It's here to
you
stay, just
are.
like the dial-up. The swan boat is
The
here to stay.
swan dial up.
The
Yeah.
swan boat hand job in the
But it's
dial-up
like, I mean,
song.
I will defend romance being predictable with air quotes the same way I will defend a mystery being mysterious and a
Yeah,
whodunit being about who
yeah.
did it, or a
Right.
horror being about, like, that's the point.
That's the point. That's
It's
what
like
you're
the
getting into.
promise of the premise.
Yeah, espionage,
Yeah.
right? Someone's
Right.
doing high-stakes government espionage, right? You know there's gonna
That's
be a
right.
bad guy and betrayal and
Right. And
yeah.
they're so satisfying too, because in the way that it's so much easier to help other people clean. It's so much easier to get rid of other people's shit, but not your own. It's so much easier to look at other fictional characters and go, oh my gosh, if you would just get over this, and then when they finally do, it's so satisfying.
Listen.
And
Don't
then the epilogue, which, okay, I feel like, to your point, Allie, where this book is maybe a little bit showing, I don't want to say showing its age, because I think that's not fair, but it's of its time, is I don't really see a lot of epilogues anymore. Maybe just not in the books I'm reading.
I don't know, I see quite a few in
Do you?
contemporary
Okay.
romance. I mean, not always, but I wouldn't say they're uncommon. What do you think, Allie?
Okay. Maybe it's just the
I
batch I'm reading. Because
I
I
think
still
that
like them. I haven't seen them lately.
I would say lately I haven't been getting as many epilogues in some of the things that I've been reading like later this year, but I think in January when I was reading some of the books from 2024, I would say that
See, there
yeah.
is still epilogue. Yeah. So just
Yeah.
I think it ebbs and flows in genre and
Yeah. But
sometimes
I
they're
like it.
in, sometimes they're out.
I think having some space for an epilogue, the sort of soft landing, and the sort of like, you've gone through this whole roller coaster with them. You've seen how far they've come and how much they've come, depending on what book it is. And finally, you get to see like who they are when they're at their best together.
So that's it. That's romancing the beat. We did
Yes, we
it.
did it. Craft Corner 1 complete.
And
All
we
right.
wouldn't be a romance podcast without a happy ending. So we're going to close out this episode with our happy ending. So doesn't have to be writing related, but what are you looking forward to this week and what things are we making room for that are positive?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first because I am just so happy to be here with you ladies. This has been like months in the making for you
It has.
listeners. We're finally like getting off the ground. So this is just feels so good. I also feel like it's kind of tickling the creative juices. I'm hopeful that maybe this upcoming week having some help and feeling a little more refreshed, I might open my work in progress. So stay tuned. But like we're podcasting, we're feeling better. I'm excited for next week.
Yay. Marie?
Yeah, I'm also really excited. I'm in a very creatively rich headspace lately. I've been writing a
Yay.
lot and I've been doing a lot of
Snaps.
plot work. So I'm really, really excited to sort of just like log in. And my goal is to finish my first draft by November 1st, which is very ambitious, but I am insane. So
In the
hopefully we can
best
do that.
way.
In the best
Yes.
way. I love
Hopefully, I
it.
mean,
Big goals.
it might be clinical. We don't know, but I'm feeling very creative. I'm feeling very energized and inspired, and just things have been good lately. So
Yes. Lean into
keep
Yay.
those
it.
up.
That's
Allie, how about
fantastic.
you?
I'm feeling excited to have some more time to dig back into my current work in progress. And I was across the pond for about 10 days in Oxford. And so that was just a lot of moving pieces and doing that for the first time. So I had all these visions of writing in different places in England. And I think I wrote for maybe 20 minutes on the train.
Like,
I'm excited to get back into it and kind of get together some like trash journaling and stuff like that for my trip that I just did. And
yay.
yeah. So I think we're gonna
That's
sign
it,
off.
guys. We
We did
freaking
it.
did
First
it.
episode complete. Thank you for bearing with us. We'll get better, we
Thank you.
promise.
Promise. It's
We
only
will.
gonna get
We might even get
better.
worse.
Marie, take
That would
that
be
energy out of here. No. I need a squirt bottle and squirt you in the face.
Amber, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on oh my goodness. I'm in places. I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok primarily. I'm trying to like grow my author account. So we will put that all in the show notes. But Amber Christine and author is most of my handles. So
Yeah. At Amber
how about
Christine author for everything except for Blue
yep.
Sky. I think it's Amber Christine MN for Minnesota.
Perfect.
So
Thank you
yeah.
for supplementing.
Marie?
You can't find me. If
Okay.
you find me, don't.
She's working on it.
I'm working on
Potentially.
it.
Yeah, she's working on it. So
I'm on
stay
my
tuned.
own growth
She's
arc.
going to create some
She
things.
is. Marie
So
has an agent, so she will have to
I
create,
will
she will have to materialize into a corporeal form on social media at
somehow,
some time,
some way.
but now's not that time. But you can follow her on all of our smut and sensibility socials. And then I'm Allie at Allie After All on Substack, and that's it. So thanks for
yeah.
joining us. Thanks for
We
bearing with
wish
us,
you,
and
yes, we
we
wish
hope
you
to see you next
all
week.
a happily ever after. And until next time,
Keep it smutty.
keep it smutty.